Wow, what a welcome, and after lunch too. Thank you guys. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me. Awesome to be back in Bratislava. I was at this conference 3 or 4 years ago, was the last time, and then I skipped a few, and my good friends from here talked me into coming back, so very, very excited to be here. Thanks for the warm welcome. It's great to go after lunch as well when everyone's half asleep, so we will try to wake you guys up a little bit and make this as engaging as possible. You heard this morning Mark Corral, who's a good friend of mine, a good colleague of mine, talk about epic disruption and everything that's happening with innovation and all of these really innovative technologies and products and services that companies and businesses are building. What my team does at Accenture is we actually help our clients become more innovative. We look at what are these innovative companies that are driving these really cool, really interesting products, really innovative products in the market. What are they doing that's different from the Kodaks of the world, right? Everybody remember Kodak? Whatever happened to Kodak, right? So what are companies that are successful at innovation doing that's different and unique from the companies that are not? And how can large, complex organizations, historic organizations, learn to reinvent themselves, become more innovative, so they can survive and thrive in the market? So I compiled these 10 habits. We only have 30 minutes. We may not get through all 10. We'll see how we do. But I talk about the 10 different habits of innovators. Another piece of background on me. So I've been at Accenture for 20 years. I'm a techie by heart. So I grew up in the firm as an engineer, as an architect. So a lot of my habits are related to that, of what they're doing from a technology standpoint to enable, technology innovation, technology delivery. So hopefully that resonates with a lot of you guys in the room. I know there's a good amount of techies. How many of you guys are actually students here? Okay. And everyone else is working at various companies, technology related? Okay, very cool, very cool. So you guys will appreciate some of this. Okay, we're not going to get too deep technically. I know it's after lunch. I don't want to put you to sleep. We're not going to talk about in-depth architecture, for example. But I do want to talk about some of the innovative habits of companies that are succeeding. So let's get into it. The very first one. When you think of innovation, I think a lot of people think about, cool new products, the Alexas of the world, innovative new technologies, innovative new services. They don't think necessarily about data. But the truth is, you cannot effectively innovate without data, because data is what provides you the context of your customers, so you can make your innovation personalized to them. Many organizations today can use blockchain to build a demo in 2 weeks or 4 weeks. But what most organizations can do is make that demo relevant by connecting it to data they have about customers, so it actually provides a valuable service. That often takes months, if not years. So innovators, successful innovators, they figured out how to use data in their innovation. I'll give you an example. I spent a couple of years at Disney World, and actually I think last time I was here I talked about that. And at Disney we built this Magic Band experience. You guys have heard of the Magic Band? Anyone seen the Magic Band? It's a connected device. It's a connected band that they launched in a theme park in Florida, and you experience the park through that band, right? So you have personalized experiences. You can use the band to get into the park, to get into your room for entitlements, etc. So it's a really cool experience. And most people, when they think about it, they think that's pretty innovative, right? And it's IoT, it's connected technologies, things are wireless, they can geolocate you and all of those things. The reality is only 5% of the work we did was with innovative technologies. Most of it was to get data to those technologies so we can make the experiences relevant. So habit number 1 is successful organizations realize that when they innovate, they need to do it with data. Okay, also related to data. And for those of you that saw Matt Lancaster's talk earlier today, this was a bit of a pitch for him. Unfortunately, he went before I got a chance to pitch him. But he talked about streaming architectures, and he talked about how do you get data around your enterprise, right, moving in a real-time way. Well, so data is not just used as, to drive insights. Data is actually becoming an integration mechanisms. And when you integrate systems using data instead of point-to-point calling, you're reducing dependencies and you're reducing coupling. And that allows everything to move faster. So again, habit number 2, successful innovators, they actually use data not just to drive insights, but actually to integrate their systems in a more decoupled way, in a more simple way, and accelerate the speed at which they deliver technology. Okay, habit number 3. How many of you guys have heard of cloud? Anyone heard of cloud? Okay, quite a few. That's good. That's good. You're in the right room. So if you've heard of cloud, cloud is getting increasingly complex. So these are different examples of cloud, right? And how organizations use cloud. And this shows the different capabilities cloud offers, right? All of us are familiar with, infrastructure as a service, where we just use, hardware, essentially, in the cloud to host our applications. But clouds are so much more these days. Clouds are actually containers, serverless functions, cloud-native capabilities that you can use and build things on. So innovative companies, innovative leaders are actually using cloud to improve resilience. They're using it to drive innovation. They're using it to create new products and services. They're using cloud-native functions. They're really using cloud to drive new revenue, to create new products. I think historically, and many large complex organizations, they really see cloud as an infrastructure play. They see cloud as a way to get cheaper infrastructure to move out of their data centers. And actually, that is sometimes not even the case. I have a client that's a large pharmacy company in the United States. And the CEO of this company recently went on TV, standing with the CEO of Microsoft, Satya, and they announced a $500 million deal to use the Microsoft Cloud for this organization. And that was great. I happened to be working with the CIO of this organization, and a few days after, we were having a conversation over dinner, and he says to me, it's funny, we signed this massive deal with Microsoft. We're going to move 70% of our data center compute to their cloud. That was the idea. We moved 70% of compute to the cloud. Microsoft's going to actually help do that. They're going to pay for some of the transformation, and we're going to get rid of our data centers. Is that a good thing? Sounds like a good thing. The only problem is, in the case of this client, their data centers were already amortized. They were paid for. All the hardware, all the buildings were paid for and were amortized. So now, they're moving all of their compute from their data center to the cloud. They didn't have to pay for it in their data center anymore, and now suddenly they're getting a bill. Right? So if we don't use the cloud for actually some of the innovation that it can drive and increase our revenue, we sometimes are not even helping our bottom line. So again, innovative companies, they really use cloud in a different way. This is one of my favorite points, and actually, I think Matt talked about this a little bit as well in his session around boundaries, right? And we tend to, as technologists, come from the perspective of systems. We build an application, the application does something. It's a pharmacy benefits management system. It's an airline ticketing system. It's a hotel reservation system. And we think about what can we do that's innovative from the perspective of that system. But we don't always think about the experience of our customers, which often span our view of systems. What do I mean by that? I was actually, a couple of years ago, I built a house. And being the geek that I am, I ran 2,700 feet of Ethernet cable through the house, and I connected everything, to much of my wife's frustration. But I'm a geek, so I did that. And one of the things that I connected was all my lights and all the light switches. And so when I did it, when I set it all up, when I ran all the cables, I was so proud, right? I told my wife, hey, come here, you really got to see this. And I said, look what I can do, right? I could pull out my phone, I could log into my phone, I could find the app that controls the lights, I could find the right light, I could click a button on my screen, and the light goes off or on. And she looks at me and she says, sure, that's a lot easier to do than this. Right? So that is thinking about innovation from the perspective of a system. Hey, we've got a system, we can connect the light, we can do some really cool stuff with it, let's make it digital, right? Great. Except for, doesn't create the experience we want, right? So I did that by using actually Samsung things. So to bash Samsung a little bit, that was a feature that was available with Samsung. I've subsequently switched to Apple HomeKit. Anybody use Apple HomeKit? So what does Apple HomeKit do with lights for me now? Apple HomeKit actually connected not just my lights, but my lock and my phone. And when I approach my house, when I'm within a certain area, it actually turns on the lights for me. So they weren't thinking about what can I do with this cool system to turn on the lights digitally. They were thinking about what is the experience I want to create for customers. And that's what this is about. It's about drawing boundaries that are different, not thinking about it from a system standpoint of what we can do to the customer, but what does the customer want? And what can we facilitate with all of the capabilities and all the data and all the knowledge we've got, right? So clearly a much better use case with Apple HomeKit, right? Okay, so serve your customers, not your systems. Next habit. I'm losing track of count here, so I don't know what number this is. This one is about experience. Any designers in the room? I know there's some. I've met some of you guys. Designers, like experience designers? Okay, cool. So you guys will appreciate this. When we think of design, what do we think of? When we think of experience, what do we think of? What do you guys think of? Scream it out. Screens. What else? Workflows. What else? Emotions. We generally think about things we can see, we can feel, we can touch, that we interact with. We don't think about the technology behind the experience. And technology behind the experience is extremely important, sometimes even more important than the design, because technology will actually drive the experience you have, independent of anything you can touch and feel. And I'm gonna prove this to you guys, but for that I need a volunteer. So who wants to be brave and volunteer for me? I know it's after lunch, guys, but come on, somebody. Come on down here, come on down, we've got a volunteer. From all the way up top, you guys in the front should learn from them. Round of applause, excellent. Come on up here. All right, we're gonna illustrate here with my friend, what's your name? Jan. Very nice to meet you, Jan. Here's a microphone for you. Let's see if that works.
Hi.
Oh,
yeah.
Perfect, it works. Come on over here so everybody can see you. Thanks, Jan, for participating and being brave enough here. This is gonna be very simple. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions and you're gonna answer them for me. That's it.
Okay.
So Jan, what time did you wake up this morning?
Well, about 7:30. 7:30 in the morning, more or less. 7:30.
And what did you have for breakfast, Jan?
Nothing.
And how was it?
I was hungry. Obviously.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for playing.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Was that pretty awkward? Yeah, it was pretty awkward, right? Why was it awkward? There was this delay. There was a pause, right? So I was waiting. You know, he answered and I waited before I responded back. And I didn't just wait. I was actually in my head counting to 3.5. And the reason I was counting to 3.5 is because 3.5 seconds is the delay Alexa had when Amazon first prototyped it. And they realized that no matter how great Alexa was, and no matter how much data it could fetch for you, or what actions it could perform, what its experience was, what its design was, didn't matter. If this was the experience you had with Alexa, with this delay, it would never be a successful product. And what drives that delay, of course? Architecture, right? Technology behind it. So when we think about creating experiences, and when innovative, successful companies, they think about experience, they don't just think about the visual aspects of it, the emotional aspects of it. They also think about the technology behind the scenes, the architecture that makes it perform, because that will impact your experience. Okay? Cool. All right, next habit. So another habit that innovative companies have is they build things to fail. Probably not many people are in the room old enough to remember when we were building systems in the late 90s, early 2000s, when I started my career at Accenture, and we used to argue with our clients about how many nines we were going to have when it comes to availability of a system. Anybody remember that? All the older people in the room raise their hands. We used to debate whether a system was going to be available 99% of the time, or 99.9% of the time, or 0.99% of the time. And every 9 you added, millions of dollars of cost, and was really complicated to build. And, we had to have all these technologies and synchronization and all this stuff, right? Well, today, organizations don't build anything to always be available. They actually build things to fail, but not to fail you, the customer, in the experience you have. Fail in the technology, but gracefully recover the experience. Let me give you an example. What is this a picture of? Anybody know? Data center. Very good. You guys are techies. Very nice. Very nice. It is a data center. I'm sorry? You can read. Oh, that gave it away. Shoot. I should have covered it up. Well, it's not a lie. This is a data center. But it's not just any data center. It is a very specific data center that is located in the north of Finland. Now, who here is from Finland? Anybody from Finland? No one from Finland. Wow. Okay. Well, who's familiar with the north of Finland? Is the north of Finland a nice place to go visit, to live? I love Finland, and I have a lot of friends in Finland, but the north of Finland is not a very nice place to live. So there's not a lot of people there either. So why do you build a data center in the north of Finland? It's cold up there, right? People don't like being up there, but computers do. And actually, one of the most expensive bills for a data center is the AC bill, right? So if you don't have to cool it, you can save a lot of money. So that's why they build a data center up there, and that data center can always run without AC because it's cold enough, except for when it's not. Because a couple of days a year, temperature actually spikes, and the data center can't be run because it's too hot. So what do? Exactly. Anybody ever worked in a data center? Anybody did application maintenance, support, running a data center? Okay, a few of you guys in the back. Do you know what it takes to bring down a data center, a traditional data center? There's man pages that are like thousands of pages that tell you how to do things in what order by what system, right? It's a very long, complicated process. Do they do that up there in north of Finland? No. There's actually a thermostat on the outside wall that's connected to the power plug, and when the temperature spikes, it just pulls the power. I'm not comfortable doing that to my laptop half the time. I'm worried it's going to explode or something. I'm going to lose all my data, right? They do this to a data center, right? And none of the applications that are run out of there fail. They actually gracefully recover in another data center, and you as a user don't experience anything. It's because they design and build systems to fail. They assume it will fail, and they build it to fail. Anybody heard of a product called Chaos Monkey? It's a great name. I love that name. Oh, a lot of you guys did. Okay. So Chaos Monkey, for those of you that don't know, it's an actual product. It's used by the likes of Netflix. Actually, Netflix uses it. And what it does is, it is a process that you run on production systems that randomly kills services. Sounds like a bug. I wish I thought of that. I should have built that and sold. I didn't know all the bugs I wrote as a young engineer and architect could be sold as a product now to these innovative companies. Could have been a millionaire and not standing up here speaking to you guys. Point is, organizations are building things to fail, right? They're no longer designing stuff to be always available, always working. Okay, we'll do another survey. You guys heard of Agile? Anybody heard of Agile? Few of you guys? Okay. All right. I have a lot of clients who have heard of Agile, and they tell me Agile is, we don't have to write anything down. We don't have to have any requirements. We don't have to have any budgets. We don't have to have any methodology, any structure. We just get what we want whenever we want it, and you do it for us. I was like, that's not what I thought Agile was. But actually, the truth about Agile that a lot of people don't realize is that to be Agile, to actually be able to have flexibility in the business solutions, the products you're building, you actually need a lot of rigidity. You need a lot of structure in your architecture, in your methodology, so that your technology teams, your business teams aren't focused on, building your, next release. They're actually focused on the business problem, and they can iterate very rapidly, very quickly, because the architecture provides them that luxury. Because the enablement, the technology, the methods they use, the practices, they all provide them that enablement, provide them that luxury, okay? So this is really, really important, is that organizations like Google, like Netflix, like Uber, they actually have a lot of rigidity in their process and architecture. One of the reasons that data center can fail, but the applications can recover elsewhere, is because there's a lot of rigidity behind the architecture that those applications that are built abide by. It's not just the hardware piece of it, right? It's actually built into the application, and it's built into the process by which you build the applications. So Agile is not a free-for-all. Agile actually has a lot of structure that allows you to iterate. Okay. Oh, this is a cool one. This is actually based on a project I did for a company called ADM. I bet nobody knows what ADM is. Anybody know what ADM is? Pavel, you were there. Shut up. Anybody else know what ADM is? ADM is a food processor. If you're drinking a Coke or a Pepsi, you're consuming ingredients that were provided by a company called ADM, Archer Daniels Midland. They're not a consumer company. They provide ingredients to consumer product goods companies. And we did an interesting project for them that was very simple. It was like 4 weeks long. We sat down and said, what are the capabilities, business capabilities, that you need to run your business? Okay, you manufacture ingredients for food, you process food, so you need a supply chain capability. You hire people, right, to work on those things, so you need an HR capability. You do financial spending, so you need a financial ledger, right? So we listed out like the 60 or 80 capabilities, business capabilities that they needed. And we went and interviewed all of their senior leadership, and we said, tell us one thing about each of these capabilities. Are they differentiating, or are they commodity for your business? In other words, do you compete on this capability? So if you think about a food processor, they're probably not competing on HR, how their HR system works. But they probably are competing on how their supply chain is managed. So let's identify the capabilities that are differentiating for you. And then the next thing we did was we took the entire application portfolio. They had about 800 applications, and we mapped them to those capabilities. We said, okay, for your supply chain, give me the list of all the applications that are supporting your supply chain capability. So we did that. And we found something extraordinary. We found that all of the capabilities that were differentiating, which they compete on, right? They differentiate their business on, were supported by off-the-shelf products that they could not tailor and were getting very little investment. On the flip side, all the stuff that was commoditized, how they do financial ledger, how many ways is there to do a financial ledger, right? Now that stuff they build custom. Lots of dollars, lots of engineers supporting it, right? So what does that mean? They're spending 80% of their investment on the 20% that doesn't matter. What they should do is the flip side. So organizations that are innovative, they know what differentiates them. They know what drives innovation for them. And that's where they target their investments. I can guarantee you that Netflix doesn't spend a lot of money managing, their email software. But they do spend a lot of money on streaming video technologies, because that's what differentiates them. That's what makes them successful. So the point is, know what drives your business, know what drives your innovation, and spend money where it matters. It's very simple. It seems simple, but a lot of organizations aren't actually doing that. So that's another important habit. This one, actually, my good friends Matt and Eric talked about Conways Law. You guys remember Conways Law? Right? So in order for us to be successful, we can't have these organizational structures that resemble the 1970s. We need to start to break our organization into a different model. So innovative companies, it's not just about technology, right? It's not just about how do I build, the blockchain thing, or even how do I get data into the blockchain thing. It's also about the organization and how I'm structured to be successful building the blockchain thing. Can I do it fast? Can I do it efficiently? Can I bring in the right capabilities? Can my organization draw the boundaries differently, right, around people and not around systems, right? Or am I going to be building digital light switches that, unless you're a geek like me, you don't care for, right? So changing your organization, breaking your organization. Oh, I love this one. This is new. I just actually put this in here from a conversation I had with a buddy of mine just the other day. Economies of bits, not economies of atoms. This is actually a transformation that's happening to lots of large, complicated companies, and the ones it's not happening to aspire for this to happen to. Let me explain what I mean by that. Economies of atoms is about producing product. Atoms are things that are real. I produce a TV, I produce a service, I produce, an iPhone. Those are atoms. And I can only sell so many of them, right? There's a lot of news about Apple in the market and how iPhone sales are dropping off. Why? Because you can only sell so many products. You can only manufacture so many products. You're limited by the atoms. Economies of bits are about platforms. How do I become a platform company? Do I sell you an iPhone, or do I sell you an ecosystem through which you can buy apps, mine and other people's, that I make money on? And economies of bits are far more scalable, far more value generating than the economies of atoms. So innovative companies are shifting to this different mode. Let me give you a couple of very real examples. Marriott, right? A bunch of you guys have probably been on the road, stayed at a Marriott. Marriott is a hotel company. They sell you hotel rooms. The number of hotel rooms they can sell you is limited. There's limited number of buildings. There's limited number of properties they can buy. There's limited number of rooms in those buildings. That's economies of atoms. What Marriott aspires to do is to become an economy of bits. They want to become a travel platform. Travel experiences today, this is actually my client, I'm actually spending quite a bit of time with them, and I love their story. Today, the travel experience is very fragmented. If I just think about coming over here, right, to visit you guys, I have to book my airline ticket, then I use some other platform, some other provider to book a hotel room, then I got to figure out how am I going to get from the airport to the hotel room. Now, I was lucky enough, I got a private tour of the old city by Pavel yesterday, but if he didn't give me a private tour, I'd have to go and figure out who can give me a tour of the old city of Bratislava and, do that through some other, mechanism, right? So my travel experience is actually very fragmented. Marriott has the ambition to orchestrate that experience for you. That's building a platform. They know where you're staying, they know when you're coming, they know when you're leaving. They can connect that to airline reservations. They can connect that to Uber rides from the airport to the hotel. And for those of you guys that are Marriott members and use the Bonvoy app, that's exactly what they're starting to do. So they're shifting from being a player in the economy of atoms to being a player in the economy of bits. I'll give you another example. In the US, and I think this is a universal problem actually, healthcare is another experience that's very fragmented. If I have a toothache, I got to go to the dentist. If I have a heartache, I go to a different kind of doctor. I go to somebody else to do my, annual checkup. I go to a lab to do my blood work. And for how many of you guys is all of that data ever coming together and you can actually get a full picture of what you have? For no one, right? So that's a problem. Now, in the United States, Walgreens is one of our largest pharmacy chains. They actually just recently merged with Boots, which is a British company, to form Walgreens Boots Alliance. Their ambition is to become the healthcare orchestrator, right? Look at Apple, right? They sell you iPhones and iPads and notebooks, right? But if you look at their financial statements over the past 5 years, they've increasingly been building up what? Their services business, right? They actually want to sell you apps, and they want to use their products to facilitate you buying apps and services from Apple. They want to sell you TV streaming. They want to sell you music streaming. They want to sell you different applications. They want to sell you services. Every company in the world is thinking about how to shift to a platform business. That's where the scale is. That's where the money is. Very cool stuff. So that's another habit that I think, again, innovative companies are building. And think about some of the digital natives. Think about Uber. What's Uber? Uber is actually the largest taxi company in the world, but they're not a taxi company at all. They're just simply a platform. They don't employ a single driver. They're all contractors that use their platform, right? So being a platform company is very, very powerful. Okay, so that was it. That was all the habits. Accenture, actually, what we've built is, my team, we've built a framework to help our clients embrace some of these things and think about how do they use these habits, become more innovative, and drive innovation in the market. And this is our framework for it. I don't expect that you guys could read all of it, but it's basically very simple. But what's unique about the framework we've built is it brings together all the elements of a life cycle that an organization needs to go through to become innovative. Starting over here, it's all about defining your vision and the value proposition and the business case of what you want to do, understanding what technologies and what industry trends are relevant for you, and shaping that into a vision. You're a Marriott, you're a hotel company, you should want to become a travel business. You should want to become a travel platform. What does that mean? What is the value case behind that? What kind of revenue can we drive? What are the products we're going to offer? That's all in the value identification. The purple stuff is all about how do we enable that value. You've heard about a lot of these habits. What's the right architecture that we've got to build? How do we think about experience? How do we marry those things? How do we make sure that our organization understands that experiences are often driven by architecture as well as by design? So what is all the enablement from a people, process, and technology perspective that we need to do? And then the last step is how do we realize the value? How do we execute our strategy? Okay, so this is a very simple framework for how we go to our clients and we help bring these innovative habits and help them drive greater innovation in everyday work that they do. So that's it. That's all I've got. So thank you very much, guys. Hopefully that was interesting and a little bit insightful about what some of the leaders in the space are doing.
Okay, give it up. Max Furmanov, thank you very much. Great. Stay here for a sec. Max, stay here for a sec. I think everybody thought it was really interesting. I was totally into it. I think you even could have done like a mic drop after 10 minutes. Because I don't know if you felt that, but when you did the exercise with Jan, you were doing it, people were like, whoa, this is actually working. And then you step on stage and you're like, that was 3.5 seconds. That's the time it took for Alexa to answer. And you just hear the whole crowd like, oh my God, what an insight. You could have just mic dropped it there and went off. So I love that. I just want to keep you here because we said no questions. I have some time. I have 2 questions. One, maybe very simple. We saw all these habits of innovators, but because we also have a lot of students and people starting out in their career here at OpenSlava, you have 20 years experience, Accenture, Techie. What is like the number one habit for you that you want to give them to build like a successful career in tech or whatever? What's your habit?
Great question. And my favorite personal habit of building, my career and even today, kind of continuing to do good work with my clients, is very simple and has nothing to do with technology. As you guys enter the workforce, and for those of you that are in the workforce already, many of you have clients. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's a customer, maybe it's a client if you're a consulting firm like me. Get to know your clients' secretaries. Treat them well.
There you go.
Give them Christmas cards. They control access to the people that will make you successful. That's my one advice.
That's a very nice one. And then you bring them all to a platform connecting all these secretaries, and you'll have the biggest data. There
you go.
And the last question, out of personal curiosity linked to your presentation, platforms, economy of bits. If you now look at Netflix and what Disney is doing and what Amazon is doing and what Apple is doing, where is this going? Because after a while we have the world of platforms and I have 70,000 subscriptions to everything. Is there then a platform coming that unites them all again to one? Or
a platform of platforms.
There you go. Where's this going? Where is this going?
Well, there's 2 possible paths. I think Mark Correll painted a very exciting, very happy, you see him jumping around the stage kind of a path. I think we saw a dystopian version that Eric and Matt were talking about. I tend to be an optimist. I think what's going to happen is you're going to see massive integration across technology innovation. There's an interesting company. It's a startup out in Silicon Valley called IFT. Anybody ever heard of IFT or use it? You guys use it? Okay, there's a few. So IFT is a little startup in California. It's IFTTT. And what it stands for is if this, then that. What it does is it allows you to connect different technologies, different apps on your phone into very simple workflows. So you can do things like say, if my phone is within the vicinity of my house, then open up my lock. Hence the if this, then that. So that, in a way, is a platform of platforms that connects this ecosystem. And so I think we'll continue to see an emergence of platforms of platforms, and our experience will become increasingly connected and increasingly seamless. That's my view of the world.
Cool, nice. Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. Max Furmanov.
Thank you.
Thank you for the great
Thank you,
talk.
guys.